What is going on, wrestling fans? Welcome to the Tapped In Indie Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Heath Mullican, joined by the man behind the controls, Mr. Nick McDaniel. Nick, how are you this fine day?
Good, man. Crazy morning this morning, just trying to compile all these notes of all these shows, and I think at the end we're going to talk about this a little bit about just the sheer quantity of shows. But I want to thank you for taking a little bit of time on your vacation and jumping on this morning to kind of get this thing knocked out.
No, happy to do it. It actually extended my vacation a little bit, so I wasn't leaving till after lunch, and so it's all good. Happy to do it. Happy to keep the fans happy. And fans, one way you can keep us happy is by becoming a member, patreon.com/tapped-out-pod. You get early access to all the shows. You get all the behind the scenes stuff, Heath's hot takes, and lots of other things that we can't even tell you about because it's behind the paywall. Also, you can become a member on YouTube. Same thing, get the same benefits. Make sure you subscribe, hit that like button. And if you want to get all the notifications, you got to hit that bell. And one of the things we were just talking about for our members, you just mentioned the sheer number of notes is making our show notes available to our members.
Yeah, look, it's something. It's funny. I used to do it. I'm not really even sure why I stopped, because sometimes look, there's literally. If you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see me holding up. Now I got to make sure I put them back in the right order. There's literally two pages front and back, so 4 pages of notes for today's show. There's no way we can absolutely dive into all of the details of first of all, I'm going to say this. I want to say kudos and thank you to every promotion that sent in the results. I tried a little format because I was worried about being able to talk about all these shows. So kudos to those guys for sending them in and helping us compile this stuff. I'm excited. I think I messaged you guys last night and said, dude, I'm jacked that these guys have all sent this stuff in, and so now we've got a lot of coverage. The trade-off is they're so in depth, and there's the results from every single next weekend, next weekend or the 13th, 14th. We talked about it. There's 13 shows. There's no way we could go match by match and all of the cards and hit the highlights. So we're just going to have to play the hits, as I like to say. So we're still going to compile all that stuff in the notes. So if they send us full results, we'll put them up on the Patreon wall so you can kind of dive into the results a little deeper, even on the show notes. So I want to say kudos to you for kind of giving me that to go you used to do this. Why do you not do it anymore? So I'll start putting that in. As a matter of fact, I'll do it this week. I'll go back and add these after we record.
So I'm excited about that. There are a lot of notes, 4 pages. Let's before we get into the indie stuff, over the weekend, we had Bash in Berlin, which I wasn't able to watch. But then coming up this weekend, All Out, which I've already pre-purchased with the 2-pack. I'd say the 3 matches I'm looking forward to: Swerve versus Hangman in a cage to kind of maybe in that feud. Who knows? Will Ospreay and Pac, and then in the main event, Bryan Danielson versus Jack Perry for the AEW World Title. Is there any way they put this title on Jack Perry?
No, I can't see it yet. I just can't. I think, the only argument you could make would be hey, we're going to try to have, Bryan Danielson make a guy.
Yes.
But I think it's too soon. Look, he's just, he's your TNT champion. Let that. I think he needs that run for a while. I don't know why. I just don't think he's the one to do it.
Yeah, I do think, however, that I think this is good booking to put this match here and now. And you basically say to Jack Perry, hey, this is a proving ground match for you. You're getting in the ring with arguably, I don't know many people that would argue against it, the best wrestler of the last 25 years. And he's going to push Jack Perry. And I think that's what I'm excited to see is we've talked about how MJF seems to hang with anybody he's in there with. Can Jack Perry do that? And that's the big question on everybody's mind, I think.
You got to go out of your way to make sure ahead of time that you kind of know, because that's not a stage you want to find out that he can't.
That's very true. That's very true. I think they have enough confidence in him that, listen, with all the controversy of Jack Perry, they have to. They've got to see something in him.
Mm.
Even to Danielson. You know, Danielson's the guy that's handed out all the punishments over the last year with all the controversy and different stuff going up. So if Danielson's getting in there with him, he must see something in the kid. And Jack Perry's making the most of his opportunities, and I can't fault him for that. So
Yeah, and we'll probably dive in a little bit next week if we have time. We'll see how much time. I think this weekend's a little bit lighter, so we might have a little bit of time. We'll dive into the results of All Out, next week on next week's show.
Yeah, I got to figure out what night. I don't think we're watching it live. I think we got to watch it a couple of days late. But I'll see. I'll watch what I need to watch to talk about it on the show. So let's jump in to fans, what you came here for, and that is this week's Indy Rewind. Holy cow. There were a ton of shows, including the annual DragonCon show, which from social media posts, over 1,000 people, the biggest one ever. For those of you who don't know, it is very much cosplay wrestling, but good kind.
Yeah.
They do a fantastic job of blending wrestling and the convention feel with the characters that are portrayed during the matches.
Well, let's backstory a little even more. If you don't know what DragonCon is, it's kind of a. Here's the thing. A lot of people are like, oh, we always thought you would be really into it. It's a comic book convention. And I always hit pause and go, it's really not. Like, right. I understand it. People think that. That is not what it is. It's very much cosplay. There's movies. There are some comic stuff involved. But in my opinion, it's a very, very small thing. There's a lot of tabletop gaming. There's all this other. It's a great big nerd, convention is what I like to
yes.
say. And that's obviously behind me, right? But I'm saying, so, but then they host this wrestling event, and it's, they pack 1,000, 2,000, whatever. Like, I've seen numbers all over the place for this thing, but there's pictures out there of the show, and it was, it was huge setup for sure. And you talked about, the cosplay effect of it. Like, you've got guys in matches that are all like dressed as their, favorite character of some kind. I want to start off with the new DragonCon wrestling champion, because when we talk about cosplay wrestling, does anybody do it better than CB Suave? Because he's always, he's got the Macho Man, he's got like all these different characters he's done over the years, and it's funny what you just talked about. He cosplayed as Bryan Danielson or Daniel Bryan. You might argue he was Daniel Bryan because there was a lot of the yes chants. Right. So to capture that, DragonCon from Slim J of all people, by the way.
Yes, please. Matt, I know Matt Griffith Matt Griffin was very involved in this show. Gonna need to see video of this match.
It's please. There. It's on YouTube. Yeah, it's up, man. I'll have to share it with you because I got a copy of it.
Oh, man. Well, there we go.
Spectacular match. They did a phenomenal job. So, look, I wanted to go. CB had invited me, and I obviously at the time didn't know why, but, obviously probably figured out why now. But I did. He sent me a copy of the match, and I watched it, and it's cool to see because not only is CB good about the cosplay part of it, he's so talented that he adapts his style to that person as well when he's that guy, in cosplay. That's what I love about so much, and but it's kudos to him because being the DragonCon champion is a huge deal because it's like I said, it's one of the biggest shows every year in Georgia.
Yes, one of the questions I asked on Facebook, T.I. Heath Mulligan, was which wrestler in Georgia wrestles in front of the most people? Well, you'd have to include one of these wrestlers from this show because, again, they were over 1,000 people.
Hold on. I'm going to ask you then.
Yeah.
Is it hands down CB Suave? And I'll tell you why. Because he also works Mucha Lucha.
Oh, you know what? When I asked that question, I was not taking Mucha Lucha into consideration.
So he works DragonCon. He works 4 to 6 whatever, how many shows that Mucha Lucha runs. Like, does he just, but those, granted,
So if that's 5 shows, that's 5,000 people right there
that he's wrestled in front of. Yeah. You could make a case for it, right? Question mark.
I will do a little more research. Another guy that wrestles in front of a lot of people, CT Keys. He became the DragonCon US champion. In the Battle of Wolverines, another one I'm getting ready. I'm excited to watch. Sean Legacy took a loss to Wade Adams, and then again, all of these great matches. You had Billy Buck as Randy Savage, along with Nick Halen and Adrian Hawkins, who were the Hardy Boys. Bobby Moore with them as Michael Hayes. Lita, Harley Kay in their corner. They took on Scotty Beach, Azrael, Simon Sermon, David Young in just a huge match. And then the Dragon Con, they also have a tag cup. Washington Bullets retain that over Slime Season, who caught some people by surprise, but not people that have seen them work multiple places. Disruptor, Action. They're a fine young team.
Yeah, Action had them in, but I think for us, I'm speaking for me personally, Disruptor is kind of the promotion that put them in the forefront. Look, they won their cup, their tag cup. They went into a 4-way tag match for that cup, and look, I'm not saying, this. If you had seen all of the parties involved in that match, you would have assumed it was going to be like Exotic Youth or somebody else that was involved. But no, Slime Season has impressed all season long there at Disruptor and walked away. So it was no shock to us that they did so well on a big, down at DragonCon. But kudos to the Bullets, who have just they've been a team that's clicked for a long, long time in Georgia. Big fan of those guys.
Yeah, I keep waiting for the Washington Bullets to kind of, will they be back and be a part of the relaunched AWE? Still looking for them in various places in Georgia. So again, DragonCon, big show there on Thursday night. SCA Friday night, leading into their big birthday show, which is coming up this Friday, September the 6th, which I talked to my friend about us going, because I've never met Heath Slater. I just think that'd be cool for Heath to get a picture with Heath Slater. That's just me. Heath Slater is going to be challenging Tower for that SCA title. Tower, who's been on a rampage, taking out anybody that would even mention Heath's name. Sometimes that happens to me too. I take out anybody that mentions my name. Yet unrated and Cirque de Dolore. Cirque de Dolore both had to get singles wins to get a tag title match this Friday. They were able to do that, so it's going to be unrated versus Cirque de Dolore. I hope I'm saying that right. For the tag team titles, you had Xander Seabolt, who's wrestling more and more, taking on Stevie Ray Frost, the guy we mentioned last week, with a good old-fashioned match. You had Tower, who was just wreaking havoc all night long. And the question coming up this Friday is can Heath come in? And Tower's a big guy. And I don't care where you wrestled, if you wrestled TNA, WWE, Tower's a big dude. Can Heath Slater in the devastation?
Look, obviously we know how talented he is, and he's been to the dance, right? He's been to the big show. We'll find out. Look, Tower's not only wrecking havoc, SCA, it's OSWA, like all over Georgia. He's hitting promotions, and I've even heard I'm having a pause button. I don't know if I'm not supposed to say. Like, I know of another promotion he's supposed to show up this weekend.
Oh,
so we'll probably discuss that. If it is for sure, we'll promote it on the Tapped Out show. If not, we'll be talking about it next week. Me and you will, I'm sure. So yeah, he's a powerful force, across the top, especially North Georgia area. So, we'll see. But I know a lot of people are going to pack the house, so check them out this Friday up there, at SCA with when Heath Slater comes to town.
Yes, it's always hot there at the Royston Dome, and you were there. At Tannery Row Ale House in Buford, Georgia. Turnbuckle made their return there, and that looked like just a fantastic show.
It's funny. We discussed kind of how they are structured. They had a great house. Look, I have always like the 7 o'clock time was like had me worried for a minute, but the crowd filled in nicely there. But we talk about how they don't really do, like, they don't announce a lot of matches. You kind of show up and you find out. By the way, I love a 2 hour and like 10-minute card. Like, it was compacted.
Yeah.
So by the way, if at the next show, if you're coming, make sure you're there like at 6:45 and get your seats,
Right.
because they're gonna start on time. By the way, they did a pre-show match like at 6:45. So like, hey, you got
Yeah.
a pre-show match. That means get in your seat, get your table, get your food ordered, and all that stuff. Because 2 hours and 10 minutes, they were rapping. But the highlights of the, I just assumed of all things, right? QT Marshall versus Adam Priest. That's got to be your main event. Nope. They went out there and they actually wrestled for the CCW title, which is QT's title that he has out of Florida. And good match, very, like good technical match that we knew it would be with those two guys in there. The crazy thing is we get some shenanigans. Adam Priest wins the CCW championship. By the way, Teal Rhodes was in the house. That was kind of
Wow.
cool.
That's awesome.
But she kind of says, nope, not going to happen. Restart the match. Of course, QT gets the win. But, the other thing I want to ask you, because we always talk about you never know who's going to show up, completely unadvertised. No indication he was going to be there. Your AAA tag team champion, the guy who wrestles at All In Wembley Stadium, Satnam Singh strolls in, before the show starts, and I'm like, wait, what? And they're like, yeah, he's going to wrestle. Like, what?
Yes, not very many promotions that can say, "Hey, we got this 7-foot guy that's unadvertised, and he's gonna wrestle," and that's a win-win because it gets him some ring time. It gives the fans this unique opportunity to see this national star locally.
He's international.
And again,
I mean, think about
it, right? Yes, yes.
Yeah. Like the world over knows who he is now. That's crazy.
The Turnbuckle shows. I mean, I'm sitting here looking at the matches. You had Terry and the Superstars versus Warden, Trevor Blackwell, Tyson Maddox. That had to be an entertaining match. And you mentioned, we've talked about these shows being kind of just fun matches that are put together, but you seem to think that there was some angles and some storylines playing out as well.
That's the thing that's scary for some promotions, I think, in Georgia to realize. If we saw Ivy Malibu attack Robin Renegade, we saw, which by the way, that was just cool to see her as a heel. But Sid, a lot of people, if you're not familiar with Sid, you need to get to, because the guy's super entertaining. By the way, they were in a match with Brick Aldridge and Brady Booker, who I'm going to talk a little bit about Brady Booker real quick. But they took the loss, and Sid's partner doesn't take too kindly to it. So he attacks him post-match, and I scratched my head for a second. I was like, folks, are we starting to see some storylines and stuff develop at Turnbuckle? And if so, that's, an added element that for the longest time we didn't think we were going to get because of the way they're structured. But if they do, that could be interesting for sure.
Think about this. Turnbuckle has the opportunity to basically have multiple universes. Mm-hmm. You could have the Tannery Row where maybe Ivy Malibu is a heel there. Then if they run in, if they got other towns they're running in, that she could be a babyface and it's completely separate.
Cali, Tito's, and Athens, for example, they're going to run there regularly. That's the advantage, and it's crazy because from they're going to run there. They're going to run the Stone Mountain venue. Like, they're starting to set up like, hey, we're going to kind of run monthly at all these venues. 1,000% you're right that it's like you could if you choose to. Now, I don't know that I would. Look, this is my only pushback. I would probably say, like, hey, let's just kind of make them consistent across the board. So the people that do follow you because you're close enough, they're not confused. That's a pause button that I want to stress. Like, the only thing that I wish, take this for good, bad, or indifferent. I wasn't going to say this, but I'm going to put it out there. The only thing that's confusing is at Disruptor, Ivy's a babyface in that same exact building.
Mm,
So would I have done it? I don't know. But I don't. Who the question here is for promotions or whatever. Who's that on?
right. Right.
That's a question mark. Tapped out pod. Anyway, but that's a question I think. But yeah. Anyway,
We had a situation one time where we had a cancellation. We had a new guy. He was debuting for our company, and we're like, hey, we really need you to work babyface because you're kind of part of this angle where this guy's going to win, cheat, whatever. And he was like, I've never been a babyface before. I'm like, well, it's only going to be one time here. Like, we want to bring you back. And it was real. I mean, I've still got video of this match of him coming out. And I'll say his name, Zuka King, came out, and he was a completely different persona, and he pulled it off. And he's still getting booked at 3 count in some ways. And so some wrestlers are just, I'm a heel or I'm a baby face, and that's how you're going to book me. I think Turnbuckle, because of the learning aspect of the promotion, they're trying different things. And so kudos to them. They're back September 13th with the special guest, Darby Allin, going to be in the house that night.
How wild is that? That's one of the things we talk about, right? So they're able to pull in somebody of that magnitude for a VIP meet and greet. And we talked about it. Like, so I'll give you the exact. It's $50. We looked the tickets up before and I'm like, how crazy is that you get the VIP table, private server, you're up on the stage right next to the ring, and you're going to get some 8x10s, and you're going to get the meet and greet with Darby Allin. I mean, a ringside seat's $20.
So so I misunderstood you. The 50 includes your ticket.
Yes, it's your VIP up on for $50. You get the stage, you get the private server, so you have somebody take your order and get your food for you. Full menu, full bar, which is not available to the rest of the venue. You get the 8x10s. Like when we did it, it was the 8x10s were on the table waiting for you.
Wow.
And then you take those up during the meet. You get first access, by the way, for the meet and greet to walk up there. They take all the VIPs first, and they get their autograph and picture or whatever. All of that is in your bundle. Like, that's just an insane package deal in my opinion. So, but yeah. So anyway, I do want to say though, real quick, because I know we got to get pressing on because there's a ton of shows. I have been more entertained and more impressed with Brady Booker every time I see him. And I'm going to pause there. I'm going to do a deep dive later when we've got a bunch of time to talk about him. I even invited him on. That's how, I was like, let's do something. Let's get something, But I'm going to put him on the pause button but I just had to, put him over because I'm so intrigued with his character that I asked him after the show, how did NXT miss on you? Like, I didn't understand it at all. So, but like I said, we'll come back and do a deeper dive someday on that. But I don't know what your thoughts on that. That just blows me away.
Yeah, and I didn't know until our conversation the other day. I thought he was an original Nightmare guy, but he went there after NXT, and they're certainly pouring into him, and they certainly QT Marshall, Cody Rhodes, Billy Gunn, the Nightmare Factory, they certainly see something in him, and they are investing in him. And he's one. Fans, you need to get out and see this young man because he has it, and not everybody does.
Yeah.
Georgia Championship Wrestling Saturday night, Buckhead, Georgia, had a good crowd. Terry Lawler took on Shawn Nelson for that Georgia heavyweight title. They've been feuding everywhere, but the big news Saturday night, Pat Roach had a very long run with that GCW television title, lost it in a loser leaves town match to Jerry Nelms, which many would consider a big upset. Now Pat Roach goes from being one of the faces of the company to gone. And how's that going to affect GCW? Yeah.
That could be probably the shocker of the weekend that, he had been that champ for so long, and that reign had been so long. And like you said, he was a face of that, I would argue Terry Lawler's the face of,
Yes,
right, obviously right
100%.
now, but it's like 1A, 1B, right? Like, because, Pat Roach had been there as such a staple in that promotion for so long. It's kind of, weird to see, like, what I have a theory that could happen. I want to see if it plays out. I'm not going to spoil. I'll tell you off air what I think may happen. And by the way, I know nothing. I don't have any inside information on this. This is what I would think. Something that I expect out of somebody like Pat Roach. But yeah, the big thing going there, Terry Lawler, Shawn Nelson, they've set up the match for the next show. We'll dive into that. I think it's the 28th. Don't quote me on that. I don't have it in front of me. Pardon me, guys. Forgive me. I think that's when it's there. They're back. But look, Terry Lawler, dude, we took a little bit of time last week to push. Like, he's defending that title everywhere. So kudos for Georgia Championship Wrestling for letting that happen. And it's everywhere.
Is that one of the we've talked about it, but is that one of the most under the radar? I mean, obviously, Terry. I assumed Terry was kind of in a semi-retired state, and then he's had this run this year, like you said, defending that title everywhere, doing something that no other champion in Georgia is doing. He is showing up everywhere, and it's been really, really cool to see. I don't even know if I'd want to call it a resurgence. I don't even know what to call it.
It's an encore presentation for the Rocker, man. That's what he calls it. It's really simple.
Okay.
It's like, look, I'm doing stuff that's fun. I'm doing things, like, hey, he was presented an opportunity to wrestle for that title. He won it. It's not lost on him that it's, at this stage, like, like, hey, I'm going to do everything that's fun, and I'm going to do everything. He's trying to, put prestige on that title, and he's doing something that, like you said, a lot of promotions just won't do, and let their champions go from place to place. And, he's all over the state of Georgia, and if he's there, I mean, we saw him at Southern Violence. He's like, hey, I'll put it on the line. Why not? So, but that's it. The Rocker calls it his encore presentation. And look, Terry got in such great shape that it was like, hey, you're good to go again.
Yes.
And so why not have fun and enjoy the ride, right?
That's right. He seems to be having fun, and in independent wrestling, that is, to me, that's the name of the game. You got to be having fun at the end of the day. Speaking of having fun, no one seems to be having more fun than the guys down at Kraken in Tifton, Georgia. They had a huge crowd for them, 200 or more. Lots of stuff going on. Trevor Aon has made himself known there in Kraken, going after just in case. They're trying to stop him. You have the H-Town Hitters. They're going through tag teams left and right. So many things happen, and this just seemed to be from the pictures, just where one of those shows where everything clicked for Kraken.
Yeah, look, man, those guys, and again, we always, I'm always partial to these guys that are involved here. I love the fact of seeing that crowd filling that building. I love the fact that they got this gym now. They've got a home there. It's really cool to see that kind of stuff. All-Star Special released a video out. They're still down there doing their thing. But look, behind the scenes, I think it's the key where they're doing their thing, because those two guys are pretty much the heartbeat, of that promotion right now, like, doing everything. So it's really cool for me personally, not podcast Nick, by whatever, but me personally, to see those guys growing, watching it grow, here's the thing, that community is investing in the promotion, and they're growing something there, because we've always talked about how South Georgia is like an untapped market. Like, there just seemed, if you drew, like, because I know you have that map that you do where it has dots of all these promotions, there's like a big, gap at the bottom in South Georgia. And now we're starting to see some things pop up and try to plug that. But the one that I think's got something special clicking right now is Kraken. And it's cool for me personally to see them, like you said, getting that community involved and doing the good things that they are behind the scenes with that promotion. But, kudos to those guys and all the parties involved there.
We'll touch on a little bit later, promotion starting in a saturated area, but it is cool to see. We've seen multiple promotions start this year in new places. One of those promotions, not a new promotion, but it is in an area that doesn't have a lot of wrestling. Coastal Empire down there in Savannah, Georgia. I actually looked at the map to see, man, how far am I from Savannah? I think I'm further away from Savannah here where I'm at than when I'm at home. Standing room only crowd. The two big stories coming out of this. Randall Reno the third regaining that Coastal Empire title from CT Keys with the help of Donald Jakes, who, if you're friends with Donald Jakes on Facebook, he's had a lot to say about this show this past weekend at Savannah, Georgia. There were some things he was just not happy about.
If you're
Then
friends with Donald Jakes, he has a lot to say about a lot of things.
yeah,
that's
yeah.
so I don't think that's any different. But yes, he did. Anyway.
You also had two guys that have kind of been going back and forth. Michael the Flying Fro Walker and Hakeem Young had a 20-minute draw. Fro asked for 5 more minutes. Hakeem just attacked him and beat him down. And so these guys have been going back and forth, talking a little trash on social media. So you never know what's going to happen at a Coastal Empire show.
No, you want to talk about why you never know what's going to happen? They actually got Donald Jakes in the ring.
Yes.
So first of all, I question why.
Yes.
Because Donald Jakes belongs on the outside of the ring in the role he's in.
Yes.
And, look, yeah, let's just go with that based on that performance. Like, yeah, he is adequately placed as a manager for somebody. And, but, he's entertaining to watch on multiple levels. If you like car crashes, there you go. Watch him. He had his debut in the ring. So
that's right. And you can watch Donald Jakes, his ring debut. You can watch it when Coastal Empire hits YouTube. I'm sure sometime this week. Also, Saturday night, Premier All Star Wrestling in Carrollton, Georgia. They're gearing up for their annual, I believe it's the annual Doug Summers Memorial Tag Team Tournament.
Look, man, yeah, they had a big card. Lots of stuff went on. The big news from the past one was obviously Stevie Ray Frost is still your Premier All-Star champion, defeated AJ Black. But everything's leading in. They're doing a quick turnaround. They were in Carrollton, now they're in Buchanan this next weekend, the Doug Summers Memorial. And we're going to talk a lot about that on the Tapped Out because they've already started releasing some of the matches and stuff that's on there. So dive into that. But, Aaron Dallas, he retained his title, on and on and on. But look, I think we've talked about Stevie Ray Frost. I want to talk about him a little bit. We talked about him a little bit on the Tapped Out show about, I know he's been around for a minute, but now I'm starting to hear some really influential people, like some powerful people are starting to take notice of Stevie Ray Frost and like, hey, Nick, you need to pay a little bit of attention to Stevie Ray Frost. And he's starting to hit multiple places. And I was like, okay, duly noted. Like, because look, that's the thing, dude. I will listen. There are people that I absolutely, value their opinion. And when they say like, hey, you need to check something out, we look and listen. So, and always, that's why we have the email tappedoutpod@gmail.com to let us know those type of things. But, I am always impressed. I will say this, to do a double shot back-to-back weekends. I know it's two different cities, but promotions when it's ambitious. And I'm curious to see, but the Doug Summers Memorial Tag Team Tournament should be definitely something to check out this weekend. And like I said, make sure you do subscribe to the channel because when the Tapped Out show comes in, we'll dive deeper into that.
Yes, so a lot happening in Georgia. OSWA was in Cornelia, Georgia. Caleb Crocker became the new corporate champion after that title was relinquished. Sweet Daddy Clint Edler, the new tag team champions. And Marcus Adams got involved as Tower retained the title over Nick Halen. And now it's going to be Marcus Adams, Nick Halen, and Tower in a 3-way match. One of the things we want to mention about this show, kudos to OSWA. They did something that I've been wanting to see. They did a post-show video, live video. Very well. They had microphones so you could hear where they had a young man talking about this card, talking about the results, and also doing some interviews with some of the wrestlers. And it is the type of thing that more shows could do, because every fan can't make it to all your matches. And it wasn't a very long video, but it served a great purpose. And kudos to OSWA and I think they've done this before. So
Yeah.
kudos, keep up the good work. They'll be back there in Cornelia October the 12th.
Yeah, we talked about this off air that I was like, they deserve a lot of credit for this because it was like 3.5 minutes. It wasn't like they spent 40 minutes, blah blah blah. Super concise, super. So I was like, whoever's idea, like, great job. I, look, do it in the back room or do it, get with your back to the wall, something like that, and just do a quick, concise. This happened, and that's why you want to come to our next show. Blah blah.
Right.
Kudos to them. They took a second. Sweet Daddy was a surprise partner, and we never saw that coming for Clint Eller. So they kind of took a chance. Look, think about that. In 3.5, 4 minutes, they did an interview with the new tag team champions, hit the high notes on all the other stuff, and make sure that's why you want to come out and see us at the next show. Because, look, everybody didn't get to come to this show, so let's cater to our crowd and, say, hey, this is why you want to make sure you're at the next one. That was awesome. We loved it.
Yes, very good. Renegade Championship Wrestling down there in Chatsworth, Georgia. You had Jason Hampton and Zach Malone, two guys that had been tag team partners for quite a while, now opposing each other. And nothing more exciting in wrestling than when partners turn enemies. There's something about that kind of blood feud.
Yeah, and that's it's sometimes, and we talk about this on a regular basis, and kudos for Renegade for getting it. Sometimes the simplest story is the one that draws the most. Like, people try to overcomplicate, they convolute their stories, and then next thing you know, you're not doing this well and doing that well. It's like, dude, my favorite one is always like, boy gets girl, boy loses girl to somebody else. They fight over, or brothers turn on each other, partners turn on each other. It's usually not that complicated.
Right.
Right. And this kind of thing, like, oh, why is everybody, so invested there in Chatsworth at Renegade? Why are they invested in the story? Because they get it. We've all had in our lifetime, we've had a buddy or I'm not going to say that. We've always had something where somebody's done us dirty. We understand and we want the revenge. Oh, I don't know. So that's why something like this works. So kudos is making it just that simple.
Yeah. Wrestling at its purest form is two people. I don't like you. You don't like me. Let's fight about it. Two guys that have been fighting a lot, Jeremy Prater and Torque, are in the midst of a best of 7 series for the No Limits Championship. They just completed match 3, and Renegade's next show again coming up this weekend, from what the calendar says.
Yeah, I think they usually run like the 1st and the 3rd. Don't quote me on that. I'm pretty sure that's what it. But that one being a 5th, there were 5 weekends, so I think that's kind of why they did it. But yeah, so they do a good show. Like, Chatsworth is up there in that corner, so it's a good ride. But look, Tyler's been doing a killer job there for a long, long time. So make sure you're checking out Renegade up there in Chatsworth and give them a follow. We always tell you, because I know some shows run their regular calendar, but I always tell people, like, you need to follow them, because had you thought they run 1st and the 3rd, you might have missed the fact that they also ran the 5th. You know what I mean? Like, so make sure you're giving all of your favorite promotions a follow, whether it's, I always found that, like, it seems Facebook's pretty, easy as far as keeping up with the calendar, but also give them a follow on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, wherever they have, because you never know. Like, even with our social media, there's stuff I put on TikTok I don't put on Facebook, and vice versa. So make sure you're giving them a follow across all of them.
Yes. Well, let's move on to, again, lots of shows this past weekend, but let's move to some breaking news. Very breaking, like as of 12 hours, 14 hours last night. Let's kind of start from the beginning. A few days ago, Josh Fields announced that his time with IWE and Augusta had come to an end, that he would have an announcement forthcoming about a new promotion, and that announcement came last night. And on January 25th in Augusta, Georgia, this is 2025. So we're like 4 months out, 5 months out. Next Level Championship Wrestling is coming to Augusta, Georgia. Fans, just like many of you, we have lots of questions. But here's the first one. Is Augusta big enough for 4 major promotions?
I would say yes, maybe, question mark. Here's the thing too. Look, we're looking at IWE, Phoenix, Viral, and this new soon to be Next Level, and in no particular order, folks. I'll say
right.
Here's the thing, though. I want to ask you this. We had a similar question a while back about Royston. I think that question's fairly much been answered at this point. But I want to ask this way. It's funny because I saw somebody post like another one, and blah blah. Like, well, there's 4. Somebody had made a comment about 4 major promotions, kind of like our question, right? And here's the I just wanted to ask you. I don't even know why this just kind of just something about wrestling as across the board, whether it's nationally, locally, and whatever. This always kind of, I don't say it bugs me. It just always intrigues me.
Mm-hmm.
There's a fan who's like, what major promotions? There's only one. And then, there's, the other 2 aren't anything. And I'm like, my question is like, okay, why is that the answer? When I sit there and go, oh, I get it. It's because you want to feel like your favorite is clearly heads above the only one. And I'm like, look, of those 4, look, we don't know about Next Level. Like we all have high hopes and we hope Josh does great. Absolutely. But let's just stick to the 3 that are currently running. They're all doing well. Like for somebody to act like the others aren't doing well, like you're in denial. And I'm like, dude, what, I mean, they just had Joe Hendry at Viral at the last show and they drew a
biggest
massive
crowd. Yeah, biggest crowd ever for them.
So stop pretending that it's always funny to me when I always say like the competition doesn't matter. And in some degrees, I understand. Run your business and do your thing. Yes, they don't matter, but to act like they're irrelevant and they're not drawing, I think is being irresponsible to yourself. To act like IWE, Phoenix, or Viral, none of those are contenders for whatever position you want to say. I think that's just denial.
One of the things I've appreciated about Phoenix is they've come in and done their own thing. A lot of their shows have been on Thursdays, and they're clearly a brewery show. They run at Savannah River Brewing Company there in Augusta, but they've run at other breweries too, and they're running a different kind of show using some different talent. Now, obviously, they're using Augusta talent like Sean Legacy, Drew Adler, Fluffman, who's originally from there. Plus, here's the thing: Phoenix launching that dojo, so they're going to be training their own people who are then going to be wrestling on their shows. The big question, there's lots of big questions for Next Level, is for example, Kraken goes into Tifton. Kraken can do whatever they want to. It is a blank slate, 0 competition, 0 history of wrestling in that area of recent memory. Next Level's got to come in. The bar can't be any higher. IWE's 2-time promotion of the year, and they've got to come in hot. They got to come in and hit a grand slam that first show.
So to answer that though, does Next Level have an advantage in the sense that Josh Fields was involved in putting that bar where it's at?
I believe so. That leads me to it. But here's the thing. It's kind of like Brady and Belichick. Okay? They won a lot together. And then they went their separate ways and had varying degrees of success. Here's the thing. Tim Blackman and Josh Fields have both put in a ton of work. We have been to the shows. We have seen them running around. We have seen Good Night. Does anyone in Georgia wrestling post more on social media than Josh Fields?
No, no, we had this
No.
conversation multiple times. Nope, not
So
about
they
wrestling.
no, that's right. That's right. That's right. So the question is now, because if you've had somebody that you've been working with, you're comfortable with, and who is sharing a big part of that load, does Blackman now need a new partner to come in and take part of that load? And Fields, same way. He's used to having somebody covering his back, doing a lot of that work. Is he bringing in a wrestling related partner? So lots of questions. The biggest question may be, and we may never know the answer to this, is why? Why now?
So you asked the question, and here's the story. I've said this for years in my life, and I've said it on the podcast in the past. Look, because wrestling is so filled with gossip and drama, it's got to be something bad, right? It's got to be.
Right.
And something when my girls were dating, when they were in high school and then they've gone on in college, etc. I had the weird. I'm going to tell her a story that I hope my wife's not listening because I was. This was obviously prior. It was after my divorce and before I was dating my wife. I had a friend, we'll call that. We kind of went out several times, quite a few times. And, you come to the realization someday that I always say it's so that we just kind of like, hey, this is really fun. We really like, going out or whatever, but we're just clearly like, this is never going to progress beyond this point.
Right.
The reason why all of this matters is I came up with a saying when that thing ended. We're still friends to this day, by the way. I just looked at my kids sometimes and I'm like, look, when you're dating a guy, sometimes, and by the way, it's partnerships in business and all things above. It's because their relationships the same. I try to teach them everything doesn't have to end badly. Sometimes things just end.
Right.
They run their course and it's over. Now, so that could be the case.
Yes.
And like you said, time will tell. We may never know. Look, I'm taking everything at a face like you're told, like, hey, we're just ended. It's cool, whatever. Now I'm going to come into the flip side. I'm not saying this isn't controversy. This is competitive juices. You brought up Belichick and Brady. Belichick had to find out, could he do it without Brady? Unfortunately, he found out the answer.
Right.
Brady had to know, can I do it without Belichick? He found out, yes, he could, and did.
Yes.
So I'm not saying this is why, because we don't know, and I don't have any inside information on this. But could it be Josh Fields has got to know? Like, can I, I think I can do this. And by the way, it's not even a competition with Tim Blackman.
That's right.
Sometimes we're competitive with ourselves to just go, I got to know, can I do this?
Right.
So if that's the answer, let's find out. I'm all for it. Let's find out the answer. And let's see how this all plays out and what we get. Because if we found out anything from when Gary Lamb entered the field of Georgia wrestling, 6 years ago, whatever, that competition pushed everybody. The more we're seeing, I think the competition's getting pushed and pushed and pushed, and you're going to find out who's going to rise to the occasion. So my argument is Augusta, Georgia, thank Josh Fields in the sense of now those four are going to have to push themselves to be better, to stand apart from the rest, to really see. Now, can all four survive and flourish? What's my favorite answer? Time will tell, and we will see.
Right.
But I think the competition's a great thing for that area.
I think we're already seeing. I think sometimes in those relationships, it's better to be proactive and say, hey, I kind of see this heading in a direction. Let's still be friends. Let's go our separate ways now before we have to be reactive. I think one of the first things Josh Fields has announced, we always talk about better than, different than, worse than, He's already said, I'm running monthly. IWE's every other month. Viral and IWE kind of alternate
Stagger.
months.
Yeah.
They stagger. That's right. He said, I'm running monthly, which is something even Phoenix. I mean, Phoenix runs regularly, but they're on Thursday nights.
I'm going to ask you a controversial question. I'm going to hit a pause button, and I know I'm about to send us overtime. Why do I think that's important? Here, again, we don't talk about awards and stuff a ton because, for a lot of reasons. But I'm going to ask you this. 3 years ago, it was kind of a debate of like, hey, if you run bi-monthly, is that enough to be a promotion of the year? Here's why I think Josh has an advantage of going monthly. My question becomes, this is tappedoutpod@gmail.com. Send your hate mail to Nick. With the next conversation we're about to have about so many promotions running, I don't know that you do anymore running bi-monthly. I don't know that you qualify. There's too many people. Look, there's too many people that run monthly. We've got multiples. Like Turnbuckle literally is running 5 or 6 shows a month for the next, couple months. I've seen their calendar through October. Like, how is that? And I'm not saying they're promotion because we talked about storyline. That's a whole other conversation. But if you're running 6, think about that. And I think about this. I think in October, Turnbuckle is going to run as many shows as IWE runs in a year.
Yes.
So if you want to be promotion of the year, Tapped Out Pod, it's a question. It's not a statement. Do you think running bi-monthly would even get you into that mix? Because do you think, how great do your shows have to be to even be in the running bi-monthly versus monthly at this point?
I think we are seeing in the current state of IWE, I believe we are seeing where bi-monthly is hurting them. At the beginning of the year, big angle, big War Games match. Caleb Kitchens becomes the GM, takes over the company. And that has only been, that would seem to me to be the 80% of the angles would be surrounded by that. It's been the opposite. I mean, they've announced 5 matches for the upcoming show, September 21st. Only one of them was really made by Kitchens. It's Hierarchy defending their titles versus All-Star Specials and William Huckabee's career, which is a huge match, huge implications. This, to me, Josh Fields kind of breaking off doing his own thing further puts a microscope on IWE, but it's an opportunity for them to really take it, no pun intended, take it to another level.
I did not realize we were going to go down this rabbit hole on this topic, but I'm going to ask you, why is the bi-monthly thing a problem? Southern Honor faced the same problem when they took off July.
Yes.
And here's what I'm going with. There's so many promotions. There's so many shows out of sight, out of mind.
Yes.
I don't care that you're promoting that you're promoting as much as you possibly can on social media. If you don't run but every 2 months, how many other shows happen between your 2 shows that you just further and further get relegated back? That's the challenge. That's the obstacle, in my opinion, that running bi-monthly faces. You can literally, and like I said, we remember when Southern Honor was coming up on Rumblejack, we were like, dude, them taking off a month, like there was so far out of sight, out of mind. Like we knew Rumblejack was coming, but it was like a week or 2 before it came that we were like really back into the mix. And, they did a great job, but that's kind of our point. If you're running bi-monthly, do you got to deliver something Rumblejack level every single month to keep on the forefront of people's minds? And how hard is that?
Yeah, we have I know we've talked about this before because if you're running bi-monthly, you do not have the luxury of having your heavyweight champion being in a tag team match with somebody to set up something for the next show. If you run bi-monthly, I believe your title's got to be defended every show. You don't have there's no breathing room. Every show's got to be a home run. Every show's got to feel like a pay-per-view because you're only running 6 shows. I would say Southern Honor, they're running 11 shows this year. 4 of them, Rumblejack still here. I would say they have 3 or 4 that have a pay-per-view feel to them. But if you're just running 6 shows all year, all of them have got to have this big fight feel.
The national comparison would be when AEW was only running like 4 big quarterly pay-per-views. And look, by the way, kudos to them. I felt like they were delivering, but you just had to. Now, granted, they had a national show feeding it every week was the advantage. But yeah, it's in a crowded field, you've got to do anything and everything you can to stay, and relevant's not the word I'm talking, but staying in the front of people's mind. And that's a hard thing when there's potentially 60 to 80 shows between your 2 shows. That's a heck of a number, but that is a very, in my brain, I'm like, because we talked about like there's 13 shows the 13th, that week or whatever. So I'm like, okay, do that times 4. That's, 52. So there could be 100 between your shows, but I'm being generous that's not a regular. So let's call 60 to 80 shows between your shows. Yeah, you can get pushed out real quick.
I think that goes into this final kind of section. Rob Rod made a list. And I had been saying, I think when we talked last week, I was saying maybe there were 30 promotions. It's closer to 50 promotions in Georgia that are running. And that means you are in a crowded state market. You got to do stuff to stand out. And you put a note in here that people are worried about being in the top 5, but may need to worry about staying in business.
Yeah, like that wasn't. And then look, and I know specifically 2 people that'll probably think that was poignant statement. It's not. It's literally like I understand it. Everybody's like, hey, we're in the top 3 promotions, top 5 promotions, blah 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 blah. I mean, if it was, but that was when we thought there was 6 to 8 that we considered like in the contention.
Yes.
I don't think it was on here, but I took it off because I started typing people that I thought were like at least in the conversation.
Yeah.
I was at like 12. You know what I mean? And for multiple reasons, there was like, oh, this style and this style and this style or whatever. But like, I was like, dude, it's you got to stay. What we just had that conversation. There's so much competition now, and everybody's talking about location. We're finding out more people are driving. Mm-hmm. I mean, when we go to Monroe, to Canton, to Tyrone, or to Royston, or blah blah. We're trying to start hitting some more even in South. I'm like, we're finding there are some people that just drive.
Yeah,
like that. This is it's kind of like, yeah, you've got to stay relevant across the board. And man, I just I get it. But first of all, let's pause again. I understand. I said like 47 or 48 is what I counted on Rob Rod's list, so it's close to 50. I understand everyone and anyone is probably ready to go to tappedoutpod@gmail.com and just shoot bullet holes in this promotion's not relevant, this promotion's not whatever. We're just saying they run.
Right.
Right. And if they run quarterly or monthly, bi-monthly, weekly, whatever, they're still trying to take the piece of the pie.
Yes.
And what we always talk about is either one of 2 things has got to happen. You either got to take a bigger piece of the pie, or you got to make the pie bigger somehow. You got to bring in new fans to try to get so your piece of the pie is bigger. You got to make the whole pie bigger. Like I think that's where we're at. Trying to like cut somebody else's piece of the pie and being the same thing, like that's a bad strategy in my opinion overall. You got to create some new fans. I don't know. That's kind of what the WWE's whole business model is right now, right? Just creating new fans.
Right. I think I asked this question on Facebook is running a wrestling promotion is so hard. It is so taxing. And I've asked guys, I've talked to the guys at Viral and IWE. Man, why don't you run monthly? It's just hard. I have so much respect for these promotions that run weekly and monthly and bi-weekly. The question is, what makes a show successful? And Ace Haven commented, if you didn't lose money, it's successful. I want to push back on that a little bit because to me, it is about money if you're running a business. But how valuable is our time?
Mm-hmm.
If I am a promoter and let's say I run monthly, and to get ready for that one monthly show, let's say the day of the show, I'm putting in 8 hours. And throughout the rest of the month, maybe I'm putting in 8 more hours. That's 16 hours. In order for it to be worth my time, minimum wage is, let's just say it's 7 something. Let's say it's $8. So if I spent 16 hours and I'm getting paid minimum wage, that's what, 108? No,
How many hours
128.
did you say?
16 times 8. What is it? 128 hours.
Yeah, yep.
I mean, $128. So if you're the promoter and you don't clear $128 that you personally made, you made less than minimum wage on that show. I told a wrestler one time, you would have been better off because of the distance you drove and what we paid you. You would have been better off working at McDonald's today. You would have made more money.
And I think wrestling's there's stages of your career where it's a little bit different. Like I understand guys saying like, "Hey, I wrestle for $20 or whatever. I'm trying to get reps. I'm trying to get." Okay, I get that. I understand that.
Yeah.
And even so, here's my thing. I will push back on your pushback. I don't know that. And what I mean by this is, like, I understand what Ace is saying, but I think it's on a single show basis. I would disagree. But if you told me like, "Hey, I run," like Ace and them run weekly. So if they have a show, they just broke even, but on a quarterly or biannually or an annual basis, they're making money. That's where I kind of, when I say I agree, but I disagree.
Yeah. I hear you.
If like Southern Fried runs bi-monthly, some and monthly some, it's like, hey, we ran a show, we didn't do well, but across the year we're good. That's where things are a little bit different. However, I'll take from Nick's personal experience. If you look at the wall behind me, so I buy and sell comic books. My answer is like at the end of the year, I try to make the IRS. It's where I did not make any money. Sometimes, however, it's because the way I treat, this is a hobby, by the way. This is not a business. Gary Lamb, you're correct. Yeah. Now, I had a couple of years where it was a business, and that was a problem tax-wise. But my goal was, I said, I want to buy and sell enough comics that I can afford to have ones I want to keep in my inventory, like those air quotes, folks, in my inventory that I'm never going to sell, but I want those other books that I'm buying and selling to pay for those. Mm. So that's a different market. But when it comes to wrestling, like, at the end of the day, it always comes out, my time is valuable. I do believe you have to make some money at some point, or it's an investment in the beginning. I'm investing my time for the payoff at the end. If that end don't come, that was a poor investment.
Right.
So that's kind of, does that make, so it's kind of like me talking out of both sides saying, I understand, I agree with what he's saying, and I disagree what he's saying in the long. I agree on the short term, disagree in the long term. So
yes, over the long run, you have to show something, whether it's on paper or relationships or opportunity. You got to have something to show for the time you've put into it. Anyway, this would be a wonderful round table with multiple wrestlers and multiple promotions, but so much things going on. We've been talking about new promotions. We've been talking about money. There's all sorts of stuff happening behind the scenes. I want to stir the pot a little bit before we get out of here. Of lots of rumors this weekend in the Carolinas of big shows that drew well, that shorted guys money, and also promotions that are on shaky ground of calling guys before they come and say, "Hey, we can't pay you tonight." Not again. You hate to see promotions struggling, but you can only pull that so many times, and eventually it is going to come back to bite you. And and listen, there's so many promotions in Georgia. The first time somebody pulls something like that, it does not take long for it to get out. But when you're thinking about starting a promotion, that's something you got to be ready for. Like, and Josh Fields is smart. Josh Fields knows before he runs that first show, he's going to have the money for everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm excited to see what he does again. I think he's learned a lot working for the IWE, and I think he wants the opportunity to put his ideas into place. And listen, fans, we would love to hear from you. We have talked about a lot of things today. Promotions, we would also love to hear from you. tappedoutpod@gmail.com. Who knows, one of these days we may decide to just do like a second half of the show and put it on Patreon. Patreon.com/tappedoutpod is where you can become a member and get all the behind the scenes stuff. I'm trying to get Nick to put the show notes up. So, I mean, there's a lot of notes today, 4 pages full. And you can also become a member at YouTube. But even if you just want to subscribe, hit the like button, hit the bell button, and you get all the notifications. Nick, any closing thoughts as we close out another chapter today?
Yeah, man. Look, I'm hoping tappedoutpod.com takes you straight to the YouTube channel, patreon.com, all that good stuff. I'm hoping to get Josh Fields set down sometime. We'll kind of, pick his brain, see what he's thinking or whatever. I talked to him briefly. We're probably going to be able to pull that off. That's the big one. Hopefully we can get him on, but lots of stuff. Make sure you're listening, because there's a lot of shows this weekend. Tapped Out Podcast, with me and Myron. We're going to be promoting all those shows, kind of telling you where they are and kind of some of the highlights of why you want to get out there and see them. But again, tappedoutpod.com takes you straight to the YouTube channel, because guess what, folks? This is the first week with no audio feed. It's funny. You could still get us on Apple Podcasts. You could still get us on Spotify. The Patreon feed goes straight to Spotify, so you can search Tapped Out Podcast Network. We are still there on Spotify. And, of course, I made a video. It's a free video on our Patreon page to show you how to put the Patreon feed into the Apple Podcast. So we're there. And, of course, my favorite is YouTube Music has its own app, and you can listen to podcasts there. And it literally feeds from our YouTube channel right into there for you to make that super simple for you as well.
We are super excited, and we couldn't do it without your support, fans. Lots of great things happening, lots of great wrestling shows out there. So, for Nick McDaniel, this is Heath Mulligan for the Tapped In Indie Wrestling Podcast, and we will see you at the matches.